Good day. This is Terry Difazio, and you're watching Dial It Up. Today on our show, we have Peter Alexander and Joe Batista from the North Country Union High School soccer program. There's a lot more than just North Country soccer that's going to be discussed today, and I'll let you guys get right into it. Both of you are involved in North Country soccer program. How long have you been involved in that?
All right, I'll start first. Thank you for having us here. I started in my second full year teacher at North Country in 1986.
Okay.
And my varsity coach is sitting to my right, Joe Batista, helping him with the JV girls soccer team for myself. Joe was doing the varsities.
Okay.
And for the next 28 years, I've coached at various levels, up through girls varsity soccer at North Country, back down to the junior high, as we were starting a family, my wife and I, and then all the way back up to finishing with the varsity girls soccer, again with Joe as co-coaches. So I've not coached for the last 2 years, just because my children have graduated and moved on, and trying something else, a bike club. So I'll make a plug for the bike club at the high school. You know?
Oh, you got a bike club going?
Yep.
Okay, well that's cool.
Yeah, for another time maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I moved up in 1981, which is a few years ago, and I started coaching the boys freshmen at that time under Ed Rhodes, who was the varsity coach, and I learned a lot through him. And so after the 5 years of coaching the boys, I actually moved over and coached the women's or the girls varsity team for 5 years. I did the girls team, and then the boys opened up, so I took over the boys program and did that for 18 years, doing the varsity boys. And then my son graduated. My second son graduated. I wanted to follow his college playing, so I took a year off. And then the girls opened up again, so Peter and I jumped in. His daughters were playing, jumped in, and we coached that for 4 years. And then again, Peter stepped down, and I've been doing it. Done it the last 2 years. So I did the girls for 6 years after I finished with the boys. So we've been coaching for a long time. So.
Okay, so since the early to mid 80s then?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And when you talked about coaching at different levels, what is that, junior high, high school, like that?
For me, of course, because we had children and other people we wanted to help come through the program, we were doing everything that dealt with soccer it seemed like for a while. So youth leagues, which was a summer league that Joe started, and I helped out a little bit on the side. And that got to be huge. Geez, Joe, you helped me with the numbers, but we were up to
800 in 1
I was
year.
going to say 770 plus kids. This is the summer league that lasts about 5 weeks at the junior high in Derby. Wonderful facilities. And it got so big we had to downsize a little bit, eliminating the Canadians and the outside of the immediate vicinity. Orleans County, we let them, Orleans District. School have to form their own. It just got too big.
Yeah.
We had that going. We had travel teams going. Joe had a Wildcat team for the boys, and I eventually had a program for the girls, and those programs both still exist, are going stronger than ever. The youth league, as well as these travel teams, boys and girls. The Wildcat program you may have heard of.
Oh yeah.
Has 17 or 18 teams going, so it's just exploded. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and at all different age groups too.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, youth league.
Yeah, and so just to kind of follow what Peter said. So back in the early '90s, we started the youth soccer program. Like he said, a recreational program, just during the summertime, and it's like a quick 5-week program. But like you said, we had hundreds of kids participate. A lot of fun. It's still running now. And they still have 300, 400, 500 kids participating. And like I said, all of it at the junior high. And so that's a lot of fun. And
Mike Stanley, maybe make a
Mike Stanley is the one that kind of he's part of it. And if anybody is interested in participating in that youth league, his phone number is 334-8108. That's Mike Stanley, and he'd have all kinds of information for you. It runs from July through the first week of August.
We'll try to put that graphic up there of his phone number.
Yes, yeah. So and then mid '90s, we want to get a little more competitive. We wanted to try some travel teams, and we did start the Wildcats, which is a travel team that plays many of the Vermont teams, all different ages, like you said, girls and boys. Peter started the girls a few years later, and now it's very, very big. But they also play teams out of the state. They play some New England teams. So what it did, it just raised the level and raised the skill level and made us not only compare ourselves to each other here at the Northeast Kingdom, but also how do we do against the Essex teams? How do we do against the New York teams? So put us at a little level in terms of how we compare. And
I think that's probably a good thing too, because if you only play locally, you'll never really know if you're getting any better than just local or not.
Exactly.
And that's highly organized. Vermont Soccer Association, VSA.
Yes.
They have player pass cards, very organized, insurance, everything goes through them.
And again, Mike Stanley is involved also with the Wildcats program. So any questions about that, you can call that same number, 334-8108.
Now, you run a summer camp also.
That's the summer camp. We do run a summer camp, yes.
And that's separate from the Wildcats, though, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll start a little bit of that, and then Peter can definitely jump in. Yeah, we started, actually, Steve Phelps used to be a coach up here for years. We started the program in '80. It's actually our 30th year this year, 30th. So we're really, proud that it's been able to run for so many years. And we started, I believe, in '86. And basically what we do is open it up to all boys and girls, grades 1 through 12, and it's at the junior high, usually the last full week of July. This year it's the 25th through the 29th, and it's just a fun week of skills, a fun week of mini games, and a week that we get about 130 to 140 participants. And it's just a good way for the players to work on their skills.
Just out of curiosity, when IROC had their indoor league, were you ever part of that or not?
Yeah,
on and off. We were like many of the community teams using it as a secondary training facility, especially in the springtime, where the fields are still covered in snow up through May.
Oh, yeah.
And it would give us a great deal, and so all our Wildcat teams are going there. The youth leagues, I don't think ever used it. Because the youth leagues were starting out in July. They had no need to be indoors. So the high school gym at North Country, being part of the high school program, was letting people use it, maybe a small fee now. I'm not with it anymore, but it was something where you could use it, but it was so confining to teams. The IROC facility was wonderful, so we hated to see that go, certainly.
Yeah, it was a nice facility to say the least.
Yeah.
So have you had any special guests at any of the summer camps? Any professional players or people or professional coaches?
Yeah, we've had, we try to get a guest speaker to come in on the Thursday or Friday of camp, in addition to the roughly 17 coaches we have. And the coaches we have, we hope, or stay with us year to year. We try to get of course, the coaches are in the soccer program to help out the North Country areas. We now have added, we're pleased to say, a Lake Region coach, Emily Pogny, helped out.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
She's the varsity girls coach. We've tried to get some of the boys programs coaches at Lake Region to come in the past. We get professional officials. We have Dave Zeneker coming again this year, who does mostly collegiate games.
No.
He'll come in. And then former players that have played at different levels, up through the voltage players. Obviously, some of Joe's kids that have played at Division I programs, Division III Middlebury and Northeastern will come in. Yep.
And coaches, like Peter said, we got some of these college coaches. Dave Saywood comes up, and some of these big coaches. Kyle Desertel has been up. He's one of our players that played through here and has gone and coach at a very high level in college. He's been up. So yeah, we do get some really good guest speakers to come up and to promote the game for us.
What sort of specific skills do you teach players, at various levels?
Yeah, the younger age groups can be a challenge. So we try to keep that ratio of about 8 to 1, so 8 kids to 1 coach, because as a 5-year-old, some of them are happy just to know which way they should be going, this way versus that way.
Yeah,
and we want to keep it fun. They're only there for 2 hours each morning at our day camp now. The older kids from grades 6 through 12, Terry, they're there for 3 hours a day. So of course you can up the ante as far as what you can expect from them and what you can teach them. But so the basic skills are just, I don't care what grade level you're in, the skills need to be taught. So we start with the traditional, of course, just foundation work, getting the ball around your feet, the passing drills, dribbling, some shooting, but of course that's overrated for a 5-year-old, to say the least. We're careful now, the changes. Joe can address this better than I can, but the heading rules.
Oh yes, I've been reading
concussions
about
are
that.
very much in vogue right now, so they're aware of that. We have to be careful about how much we do with that, certainly in camps.
Yeah, I've just read about that. They're worrying about concussions and heading the ball.
Yeah.
I know that when I played in high school, a couple of times I'd head the ball and I'd come out with a vicious headache from it. So I can imagine that must be a concern now.
Yep. There are good ways to teach that without having to bang heads, all the time. We can use much softer balls. We do that. So we do train. We train the safety part of it. The change that's going to happen, nothing this year, but the youth soccer that Peter talked about, the Vermont youth soccer, is actually looking at the 12-year-olds and under not heading balls in games.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, they just don't know the logistics of it. How what's going to happen if a kid does head a ball? What's the restart? What's the foul? They're really coming up with some rules. But it's more for the younger.
Yeah.
When you get to the junior high and high school, they're going to. I said stay away from that. But you train at the beginning when they're younger, and then hopefully that will. Develop into their older age.
And I can understand that rationale because I used to referee ice hockey, and below a certain age group you could not check. Right. And they'd move it down, and they'd move it back up, and they'd move it back and forth, so like that. So I can understand why they would have to do that, and they'd probably phase it in somehow.
Sure. Because there are proper ways to head the ball properly, so the percentage of damage is very low if you head the ball correctly. And we teach our teams and our players that, So
the contrast with what we've seen as coaches over decades, it's not so much heading the ball, of course, it's the physical contact.
That's right.
I think
That's
the
right.
orthopedics will back you up on the numbers. Will say that soccer is the #1 leading source of injuries for at least adolescents because they have minimal padding on.
Yes.
And when you have two people colliding, efficiency of the ball, so that really has nothing to do with heading the ball. Right. So we try to protect that, and obviously the rules are set up to do just that thing, especially goalies.
So I think you'll see a little more of that in the next 3 to 5 years. Still just being developed and looked at right now.
And I think, Joe, you said that you're an official too.
Yes.
You're a referee also.
Yes.
So you'll probably see how they're going to phase this in because you'll have to understand the rule changes between the age groups also.
That's right. Well, we go to clinics. We have to go to classes, and that's what I learned about next year, the U12 and under, the 12-year-olds, because it was discussed at this meeting I was at. But again, not just for us to think about it. It is definitely going to be looked into next year. So next year. But we will, as referees, we have to watch that very, very carefully.
Now, as far as officiating is concerned, what are the big differences between coaching and officiating, other than yelling at the officials?
Well,
we don't do that.
No, we don't do that. I have a kind of a little story about that, but I always tell my players, when I was really, really young, I used to play around in the backyard with my brothers and friends and all that, and I thought I was really good. So then I went to the junior high into these club teams, and I realized how much I didn't know about soccer.
Right.
It says, oh my God, this is amazing, you learn so much. So then I played soccer, college, ball. Then I came up and started coaching, and I said to myself, oh, I know the game now. I play and all that. And I realized as a coach how much I didn't know about the game. Oh my God, and how much you learn as you evolve and coach and coach and coach. And then I started officiating, and I said to myself, oh, this will be an easy thing. What a transition from playing to coaching. And I realized how much I didn't know about soccer as an official, because we have tests to take, we have all these things, and I'm realizing how much I didn't know. So when you're out as a fan watching a game, just remember that you don't know as much as what's going on. It's a very, very difficult thing.
And the average person doesn't understand the rule book, regardless of whatever sport it is. And
right.
There's also another rule that you guys probably understand this too. You're not going to call everything, and you're not going to see everything, because as an official, you see a different game than they do. You're closer. You're going to see things that they don't see, and they're going to see things that you don't see. And that's just the way the game is, no matter what the game is.
And Joe has touched on just knowing the rules, but to actually officiate is more than just, I played the game of soccer up through your senior year. It goes so far beyond that. Can you control players? Can you control the crowd? Can you control the coaches? The ebb and flow. Are you in shape enough to run up and down to make the proper offside call? So there's so much more to it. Say, I played the game of soccer. And unfortunately, some fans use that as a vocal.
Yeah. And there are, if you want to, they're dying for officials. So if you want to officiate different levels, they can call me and I can contact them to the right people. But you can coach youth leagues, you can coach high schools, you can coach the JVs. So there's a lot of opportunities to officiate if you want to do that.
Now as a referee, do you have any sort of special training? And I know you have to take tests, because I used to have to take three tests when I did ice hockey.
Yes.
Actually, 2 written tests, and I believe we had to go on the ice also. But any special trainings or seminars that you had to take?
Yeah. They're looking into doing even some fitness tests. That was an issue, and right now, there are fitness tests that you have to take. There are, like you said, demonstration games that you have to officiate. So there is. It's not just giving you a patch and a whistle and you're done. There are some trainings and workshops and demos that you have to do.
And I think that's important too, Joe and Peter, simply because if your officials are not in tune with the game or what they're supposed to be doing and where they're supposed to be, it really actually impacts the players too. They have to know what you're going to call, that you are going to make the right call, or at least have confidence you're going to make the right call.
Right.
Right. And the certifications are different. Joe can address it, but to ref for the Vermont Soccer Association and summer leagues are different officiating certifications than you do for a high school game.
Well, there are actually different rules in both. There's different rules between the youth leagues and the high school. So you have to know, which ones is which, because you don't want to call something wrong. So
I'm seeing a lot of parallels between ice hockey and soccer, because in ice hockey we had, depending on what you officially get, 3 different rule books. You had the Federation.
Yes.
You had USA Hockey, and then you had the NCAA.
Right. Yeah.
So, you guys probably run into that.
Yeah.
I know with high school, you probably have the Federation rule book, right?
Yeah. Well, they use the youth league. They use the FIFA rules.
Oh.
The youth leagues. Oh yeah. All the youth leagues, the Wildcats. It's all FIFA. The high school basically has their own rules.
Yes.
They have a clock. It's timed. It's So it's a little. When you look at it, there's definitely some different rules, and you have to know them. And it's nice if the coaches know them, because then it becomes easier for them and the officials to communicate.
I will never forget doing a game and having a coach yell and scream at me that the goal should be disallowed because of a 2-line offside pass. And I looked at him, I said, USA Hockey doesn't have that.
Yeah. Right.
And
exactly.
You probably run into, do you guys run into that same sort of thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Officials. Yeah.
Even the NHL has gotten rid of that stupid rule. But what would be some of the differences in the rule books?
For high school versus youth?
Yeah.
Well, it could be something as simple as throw-ins and corner kicks, when you can make substitutions.
Yep.
Okay.
Substitutions. The length of the game. In high school is definitely 40-minute halves. Youth league doesn't. They'll add time at the end if the team is trying to delay or there are injuries and all that. the substitutions, like Peter said. There are certain times you can sub at different stages of the game. Different rules of where the ball is played, in case, if there's a foul. Some of them are an indirect, some of them are direct fouls. There is definitely some different changes. And you got to know that. Not many, but definitely enough.
Yeah, and like I said, if depending on which level you're doing, Joe, you have to know the right rule book.
Right.
That's where it's nice if someone does get confused. They can confer with the other referee or official. We love that as coaches. If you make a call, it's okay to ask what someone saw from the other side or what their interpretation of that rule was.
I'll just give you one quick simple example.
You don't have to be quick either.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
All right,
Take
good,
your time.
On a throw-in, all right, so the ball comes out of bounds, it's a throw-in. One of the rules is if the ball doesn't come into the play on a throw-in, let's say they stay out, it goes to the other team. The other rule is if they do it, they have a rethrow. So something like that, as simple as that, can become a change, because immediately if it's the other rule, the other team can pick up the ball and immediately go the other way. So you have to know which rule is which. Something as simple as that.
Now, when it comes to, say, junior high, high school, college, or even professional, do the field sizes stay about the same? Or is there a big discrepancy in sizes?
There's, of course, it'll come with a handbook. The federations will show you a proposed dimensional field should set up with. But you can imagine, due to limitations of field space, money, you may be playing a high school game on a field that looks like, geez, this is set up for a junior high. That shouldn't happen at Division I level, but it certainly happens at the junior high level where. Even high school, Dimension I school, I'm sure there may or may not be a student playing there, but Burlington High School, Division I Metro School, where their JV field was down at a secondary school with a bank, it was literally 3/4 of the size of what you would play. And of course, it's the same field size for everyone, so as a coach, you try to tell your players, don't worry about that, it's the same for both.
But at the high school level, is it pretty standardized?
Yeah, it's pretty standard. There's a max that you can do, and there's a certain measurement that you can't be shorter of. So like the length is like you have to, it's 120 by 80, that's the max. 120 yards by 80 yards, that's the max. Ours here at North Country is 110, 110 by about
66,
67 yards. So you can see it's much smaller than the max, but ours still fits in that. A little bit shorter, it might not be able to fit. So, so there's a max and a.
So they try to keep it somewhat standardized.
Yes. But
in hockey rinks, I believe, from your end, you'll find the same thing. It's not a universal fixed side. They have to play within a certain parameter.
Well, the standard now is 200 by 85, which is an NHL size ice. Some colleges have gone to hybrid, which is 200 by 90, and Olympic is 200 by 100, of course. But in most of the rinks that I've seen, they're pretty close to 200 by 85. They'd like to keep that. The old Stansted rink was 178 by 80. It was very small.
So the only thing is on goal size, the goal posts.
I was going to ask you about that next. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the goal posts, that's pretty standard for, let's say, from the junior high up all the way to professional. It's pretty standard. Below that, if you get into the Wildcats or the Youth League, like 14 and under, they'll have smaller goals.
Okay.
So that makes, there is a little change of that. But in terms of junior high and all up, it's all one
We call it 8
size.
by 8, 8 yards by
Right.
8 feet.
8 yards by 8 feet, right.
Now, I remember when David Beckham came on into the soccer a few years ago, and he had trouble because they don't call it soccer in Europe, do they?
Yeah, well, in the French, we call it the football dominicain, so American football. And not Americans, of course, that's all we know it as soccer, but you're not playing with socks, you're playing with your feet. So the football makes more sense to people outside our area, of course.
And when you get right down to it, American football, you don't use your feet very much.
Right.
You don't. There's not much kicking. And the other thing I've noticed, and maybe you guys have too, have you noticed in the NFL, or even in your major colleges, most of your place kickers are probably soccer players.
Yes.
That didn't quite make the soccer team.
Right.
So they have them kicking because they can kick like crazy.
Yeah.
In our generation, not to date ourselves, but we know before the Miami Dolphins 1972, Gary Premium brought in this European style of stepping to the side, what we call a soccer kick. Before it was the classic Tom Dempsey, straight on.
Yep.
Yeah, and of course now no one kicks that way, or almost no one kicks that way.
I don't know of anybody that does, and
it's,
and I think it's good that they're utilizing that. As a matter of fact, even there's some punters that are taking from Australian rules football. If you've ever seen that crazy game, that is the craziest game I've ever seen. But they kick so much. There's so much punting that goes on in that game.
Right.
That's what they use them for. What do you see as the future for soccer in America?
I'm just starting, and Peter can add to this. As you know, the women's soccer were the champs. Am I right? Yeah, they were world champs this year. They had a great game. But the game I like to talk about is the one up in Montreal, where they played the Germans and the semifinals match up there in Montreal. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to go. I wanted to go, but I could not go. But that was just an amazing game to watch. It was a thriller that U.S. won. And I know a lot of people from around here that went to that match who are not soccer people, and they just couldn't believe what a game. Just action from start to the end of the match, and it was just a fun game to watch. So the women's are really starting to peak up. Right? And of course the men are also very a lot of fun to watch. They've done really well. They've never won a World Cup, but they've done really well. They've gone to the second round, which is a really good thing for us.
I've noticed that certain teams from Europe tend to win a lot.
Yeah, what's happening locally, or I say locally, nationally in the United States, and now we've got these ESPN, these people are carrying these games through cable, and so of course the recognition is out there. Unfortunate for the women's, as exciting as that game, and I was lucky enough to get tickets for the semifinal there.
Oh, you were there?
Crazy.
Right?
I was definitely there. Yeah. And then they went on to advance and play and blow out. The championship game was nothing compared to that. So you had a situation where you had the number 1 and 2 ranked team in the world playing in the semifinals. The Olympic Stadium is not the beautifulest park to play in, but so the fever's there. People are memorizing the ladies' names, numbers, and now, unfortunately, every 4 years it cycles back down over that period of time. But now with the coverage, cable, you'll see it is definitely changing.
Yeah, and
for the positive.
Television coverage is extremely important too.
Right.
And certainly that when we're competing with what we call traditional American sports.
Yeah. So and just a quick thing.
Sure.
Unfortunately, soccer is very difficult to advertise with, because it's not like baseball where you can advertise between innings, or hockey. The puck goes out, or there's always a TV. You can do that. And of course, football. But soccer. I know, but soccer, it's really 90 minutes of no stoppage, and the time they may take you off could be the time that the goal is scored, and it's a 1-0 game, and you've missed one of the most important parts of the match. So
I agree, and in some sports, football isn't one of them. But for example, in ice hockey, they're trying to speed it up. But whenever you have a televised game, it slows everything down because they take these TV timeouts.
Yeah. It's like basketball, right?
But unfortunately, that's what gets you the exposure, and that's what gets your people interested in the game itself. Here was a good question that I was asked one time. One of the reasons soccer isn't very popular is because nobody, other than Pele, nobody knows anybody's name. And I have to admit, I only know three soccer players' names.
Right.
I knew Pele. I watched him. And I knew, of course, David Beckham, and the other one was Diego Maradona.
Yes.
Right.
But other than that, it's true. You just don't get the TV exposure.
Yeah, and again, I think a lot of it is what I just said. It's the advertisements. We have to try to get, we meaning soccer, has to get a little more creative on how to advertise. Now you'll see, like, they have these advertisements along the field, the actual pitch, to see the advertisements and all that. So we got to get creative, because you can't do it during the game. It's just, like I said, it's not one goal could decide the winning.
Oh, of course.
And you don't want to miss that. Because they're advertising. So somehow they're getting a lot more creative with that.
We're also fighting a cultural, obviously, I can't name too many Argentina baseball players. I know basketball. Obviously, the United States, I know people call it football. Baseball is our national pastime. This is where people focus in on players' names and the history and memorizing,
Right.
So the soccer player, if you got cable television, you can watch some of it, but I don't know if it ever, you're trying to catch up 100 years worth of what is a cultural religion for these,
Right.
Yeah, and in other countries like in South America or Europe, it is extremely popular.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
It's the world sport, right?
Yeah, what really I believe is popular is the World Cup piece. Every
Right.
time U.S. has a World Cup, and we're in it and we're good, you really have a good follow, especially the last 5-6 times that we've been in it. So hopefully we can continue that, so people can continue watching, and again, that's how it becomes a sport, a big sport.
Gentlemen, our time is up, but I want to tell you that was a quick half hour.
Yes.
Very quick, and I would like to invite you back again sometime if you'd like to.
Sure. Sure.
And for Joe Batista and Peter Alexander, it's great to have you on.
Thanks.
This is Terry Difazio for Dial It Up, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Have a good one.